What's going on, everybody? John Stamper here with DentalCast Productions, live at the 2019 Hinman Dental Meeting. It's been a blast. We've had just 3 great days of interviews and live events and going to trade show booths and all kinds of great stuff. So I'm very, very excited to have what is becoming a very, very new friend for me, and she's done so much in the industry. I've got JoAn Majors with me, and she's on the podcast. Welcome, JoAn.
I'm so excited to be here. Hello. Yay. It's been a great show. Great meeting.
Yeah.
You're up to great things. I have to tell you, it's cool when you look around and you see you and your crew all over the place. And I think that that's one of the exciting things when you go to a show like this is, you don't really know what's happening a lot of times. You don't really have any idea. And in dental offices, my husband's a dentist, we get stuck in our trends and we go to the same meetings and we do the same thing. And it's like watching what you guys are doing at this meeting has been really incredible. I mean, I love to be in awe of people. I'm in awe of what you and your team are doing. Yeah. It's very cool. Very cool.
We appreciate that. And I think it's really important to us. It was important to be here. It was really gracious and wonderful of the Hinman to embrace kind of this new way of getting the word out. And they've been wonderful. They've had us at a lot of different events, but certainly I think to hear it from individuals like yourself and people that come to these meetings of what's going on, I mean, that's really the whole goal of this, is that there's so much great content and people and speakers, and there's a lot to do when you come to these meetings.
Absolutely.
And so if for whatever reason you could catch something on a company that maybe you didn't get a chance to see them, you couldn't get to the booth, you're at a course, that's really the whole goal of this. And the other goal of this, quite frankly, is to promote people like you.
It is.
So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to talk about you a little bit.
Well, I appreciate that. That's always, the more uncomfortable for me. I'd really rather be promoting all those other people around me than I had be talking about me. But we can talk about me a little bit. Yeah.
So the first thing that I want to talk about is Spouse Tales, which is your new podcast.
Yeah.
And I told you from the beginning, what I loved about it is that there are a lot of podcasts out there, many of which, tips and tricks and insights on dental practices and practice management, all good stuff. Spouse Tales is different. It's stories, which people love.
It is different.
Share with everybody Spouse Tales and how it's been going.
Well, it is really different. I think that, as I've said, I was in dentistry for many years before I married my husband. And so I had a software company, sold it, did a lot of different things before dentistry. But when I married him, it's like all of a sudden a lot of things changed. And, people talk about how this change happens. And I remember telling a friend of mine who was a spouse of a dentist several years ago, I said, what I want to remind you of, Maketa, is that no matter what you do, you are still the doctor's wife. And it's weird because she reminded me of that, 4 years later when I married Chuck. And I think that one of the things that we're trying to do with Spouse Tales is really tell some truth that really a lot of people aren't comfortable talking about. Right. And I will tell you that we've done interviews with people about situations and things that happened in a practice where they literally have gotten a phone call and then an urgent text message saying, JoAn, I've really rethought it and I don't want you to publish that. Yeah. I'm afraid. And so my blog article this week, and do live because I write the blog material for Spouse Tales through Dental Entrepreneur Women Life magazine, was titled Doctor Held Hostage, because I think that there are situations in the practice where, and I have skills, which for me is even a little harder because, we had a situation even last week about some stuff that was going on and some care credit stuff that we were kind of concerned about, and somebody had called and said there's some suspicious activity, and we took a look at it. And so as it turns out, somebody in the office was doing some coding that was costing the practice money. And so what's interesting is for me, I go through, if I go in and I'm going to actually talk to this person about it, what are the ramifications for me? And what I know is, and my husband looked at me and he said, JoAn, you got to remember, the only person this is going to hurt is you, because you're the one that's going to have to be there answering the phone next week versus I did a Patterson event Tuesday night. I spoke in the Valley, and then I came to the Hinman. So he said, really, you got to know who this is going to hurt is you. And so I think that we want to talk about things that can help people understand. And somebody said to me the other day, there's a gal that's runs an ADOM chapter, and she said, I love your podcast because every time I listen to the interview tips and tricks or the do's and don'ts, and she said, what I know is I always have a takeaway. And she said, I'm kind of like the doctor's wife, because she said, she's been in practice for 20 years, and I'm the one that kind of has her back and that sort of thing. And I said, if you go back and read the first blog that I wrote with Dew, it was entitled, These Are the Day Wives of Our Day Lives, because there are those team members that are standing in the gap for us that would do whatever they need to do to help protect the practice or whatever. So ours has been really interesting. We interviewed Dr. O'Donnell and Cheryl, the chairman for Hinman 2020, and it was really interesting because just talking to them about how they work together and the spouse role or the auxiliary, whatever, in the Hinman, and how this is an amazing meeting and how much they actually do to help this meeting come off like it is. So we're not talking about, people that are, like I said, eating bonbons and hanging out at the pool. We're talking about real things that happen and how, you get past that. So it's been fun. It's my give back, and, it's Kathy's give back. It's not, we didn't do it to make money on it or anything like that. But what we know is there's nobody really mentoring these new spouses. And I read something recently that was talking about, 60% of people, 50 to 60% are females that are getting out. And I have a friend who has an implant training curriculum, and he said he had 4 females in his last hands-on course, and of the 4 females, all 4 of them, their male spouses ran the practices. So I think, who does somebody talk to when they say, hey, when this happens, what do you do? And we're not sugarcoating it. We're not making it, it's not a bad thing, but it's true. I mean, it's where we really live, and where people think that, my vacation's been canceled before because we found out that some things were going on and we needed to stay and take care of it. Now, don't get me wrong, we've had some really amazing practice managers, and in the times that we've had these really great practice managers, we had somebody standing in the gap. We had that day wife, if you will, that was taking care of things and watching all those details that I don't want to do that anyway. That's not my role. My role is, to help with these comprehensive cases and then do what I love, which is, speaking and being on the road. So,
which is interesting because, as you know, dentistry is unlike a lot of other professions where, yes, there are spouses that work together, but in dentistry, it's a lot more, right?
Oh, yeah, it's a lifestyle.
It still has that small business feel. And like you said, maybe they're not the office manager, maybe they're not even there in the practice, but they're still a part of the business.
Absolutely.
And so being able to share those stories and maybe help people through that, I'm sure, is very helpful. And I think the other side of it is that, what's it going to be like with this trend of more and more women graduating dental school, having their own practices, working together with their spouses, and what that dynamic is going to look like. So I love it. I love that you're doing it. I think we all know that podcasts that have true real life stories is where people can connect the most. And so
we have real people with real stories. What our little tagline is, because you can't make this stuff up, and you really can't. I mean, these are things that are like, some people are, it's like almost shocking when you realize the things that can happen. But we also, because of my work with the soft skills, and the training stuff, it really, it's kind of an outlet, because we get to share, well, this is how we handled this, or this is how we handled that. But ultimately, it's about people. And we now know that, there's some real tough truth or some hard truth about using soft skills. And I think that for me, this is a way to use the application of some of those soft skills. So really, it's kind of, the takeaway is like the little booklets that we do, or, short stories with tall takeaways, because I want somebody to walk away with, okay, now I would look at this situation with a team member differently because of something that we said, or the way that we ask a question to learn more before we get into those situations with those team members.
So speaking of soft skills, you do a lot of work with specialists and their teams, and it seems to be a pretty interesting time in dentistry for specialists.
It is.
Because, as you know, probably more than so many people, for many years there really was a pretty straight divide between the general practitioner and the procedures that they did, and the referring to the specialists and all that. And now with technology, there's more general practitioners doing specialist procedures and all of that. But you've lived in that world. You've worked in there. So talk a little bit about the work you do there, soft skills, and that, because I think it's an interesting time, and I'm curious on your insight.
Well, I think that my biggest block of business, where I've gotten my most traction and what I really love doing is, these programs for these specialists who have me come in and work with their referral base and teams. And, my team for 20 years, when I worked with the Mish International Implant Institute, before we did our team training, we would get the participants, phone numbers, and we had our team secret shop them. And we've been doing this for years, and we didn't do it to make anybody wrong or in trouble or, make fun of them or whatever. We did it to prove. My favorite quote, and somebody reminded me the other day, they said, this is my favorite quote you've ever said, is I always say, you cannot create value for others until you understand what others value.
Right.
And that, John, for me, that's kind of who you are.
Right.
That's kind of who I am. I can't create value for you and for our relationship unless I understand what it is that you value.
Sure.
And you value relationships and doing this with the right people. So I want to bring you people that maybe you don't know that might be a great person for your program. Well, when I think about this, and I think about we do the secret shopper simply so we can prove the concept that most of the time that's not the thing that people focus on. Yes, we've got systems. I don't think that the systems are as solid, because the program I did Tuesday night, I had everybody who answers the phone stand up. And then I said, I want you to stay standing if you've been in any other clinical position ever in the practice. And so about half of them remained standing. And I walked over to her and I said to this one lady, I said, okay, so what was your role? And she said, clinical assistant. I said, okay, so tell me what kind of certifications you had. She said, well, I was NITRIS certified. I was radiology certified. I'm a certified dental assistant. I was, she went through several things. I said, okay. I said, and how long have you been on the phones? And she said, about a year and a half. I said, do you have any certifications for that? And she said, no, I really don't.
Talk on the phone.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I really don't. And I said, that's why when we started this, and the first soft skills program, debuted at the Mish Institute probably in 2005, and it was the soft side of implant dentistry. It's when I wrote my first book and did that sort of work. But what's interesting is now it's kind of popular and people are kind of picking up the term. But I think about that. They used to call it the fluff. I mean, at the meetings, it's like, I'm going to go get my scientific hours, and then none of those fluff courses.
Right.
And we now know that, you can take all the scientific courses in the world, but if somebody can't put the tushes in the cushions, you're not going to get to do the great dentistry. So for me, that's been the lane that I live in. And the working with specialists allowed me to find out what their referral bases were doing and saying. They grow because when the actual referrals understand a few things differently about that, and about transfer of power, about how we actually get the patient actually to them and make sure that they get there, and just those few things. And we're working on a certification for that, because we should have people be soft skills certified. And I do some programs with some larger groups where I speak quarterly, and we do some training with them so they have a soft skills specialist on their team. Not to be confused, I still, even those get referred to me a lot of times because, I love the speaking. I love the moving people to action. I'm not really in the coaching consulting world because I have a lot of great friends that are coaches and consultants, and they're good, and I love to refer to them.
Right.
So for me, it's just that initial concept and how it works. And as being in a general practice, I get that how different it is, because we know that we can actually make sure that they get to that specialist office, or we can in fact say, here are 3 cards, these are the people that we usually send to, and you can make the choice. And then you go in the parking lot at the end of the day when you look, and there's 3 or 4 cards there, because we didn't really actively make that that transfer. So that's my favorite place. I think I can make a really big difference. And although the content's the content, and we have the bones of the material, I go in, a day or 2 ahead of time, and I go into the surgeon's practice, and I'm watching and I'm learning so that I can put the skin on the bones. I've got the system, but I want to go in and find a reason why I can say, okay, so here's what I want you to do, and we're going to refer this patient, to Dr. Boyce, because that's who we've been working with for years, and, make that transfer so that there's not a lot of questions, versus just something very, mechanical. And so it's about going that's a transaction that somebody does. So it's about going from transactional to transformational, which for me is what we have to do, because we've been transactional, and we don't want to be transactional anymore. We need to be more transformational, because transformation happens from the inside out. It doesn't happen from the outside in. Doctor goes to a course, comes back and says, heal you. You're going to do this, and this is how we're going to do it. And it's like, that's change, and team members don't like it, and if you don't have the experience to go with it, you don't like it. So it's always better if it's transformational and the team gets it. And so with these soft skills, one of the things that we really work hard to do is we don't give them a skill generally, like we'll say, we're going to talk to you about this particular, leaders and trailers or input. We don't give them a skill. skill unless we can give them a way to use the skill with their own family. Because for me, today's team member really they want to know what's in it for me. You know, I mean, and that's fair, okay?
Sure.
So not only are you going to be better at your position in your office, but you're going to be better at actually connecting at home with your kids, with your spouse, with your mother-in-law.
It's the same. I mean, it's the same type of communication skill, right?
It is.
No different than
it's the same thing.
You know, set up the stage to refer to the oral surgeon or whatever than it is to ask your teenager to take out the trash.
It's absolutely, people are people.
Right.
And that's the thing. I think that if we can find a respectful way to share that information and have those people, you know, move to action, you know, and that's kind of what I like to do. I mean, I love to move people to action. And so it's not about, you know, I mean, I've been in dentistry a long time, and I remember as a professional speaker for about, 20 years, what I think about is, you know, about 5 years ago, something clicked. And I said, I don't want to just read the reviews anymore, and that's the thing. It's not. It's like, for me, it's about, I want to go and I want to make a difference. And I'll say, you know, where are you from or whatever? And they'll say, well, I'm from, you know, Colorado Springs. And, okay, I want to make a difference in Colorado Springs on Monday morning at 8 o'clock.
Right.
Or tonight at your home. So for me, it really is about, I'm at a point where I don't really speak to groups anymore that don't have team members in it, because that's where I can have the greatest impact.
Yep.
And so for me to have an audience of, you know, well, you can just come and we can do this is really, you know.
And it seems like the timing is right for that. You know, it's interesting. I was just talking with Tanya Lanthier from dentalpost.net, and I was asking her what things were like in the beginning when she started the company on the hiring side and kind of what she's seeing now.
Yeah.
And there certainly is this trend towards the doctors recognizing the importance of the culture and learning that type of stuff and realizing that regardless of how awesome their clinical skills are, which need to be there, it's about the whole team working together.
Yeah, it is.
And so it's just really neat to see, because I think, to your point, like you said, many of the courses in the past were very clinically based, and now everybody is starting to buy into that.
Yeah.
And how good is that for the development of the teams? Ultimately, then the patients getting the care done, which is influencing them to want to do something that they don't always want to do. So it's just super important, and I love that you go in that direction. And I think the whole specialist piece is interesting, because same thing there. It's, if I'm a patient, I come into the practice and you said, well, you need to go ahead and get this root canal done. Here's 3 names. It's almost like that patient's like, well, I'm looking for you for that. Like, you're the one that's supposed to guide me in that direction.
Be the doctor.
Just saying. Just tell me that. So very interesting.
And it's left to somebody, generally, I mean, quite often it's left to somebody who really, it makes no difference where they come from. And that's why, for me, you know, the way that I've built my business and working with so many specialists is, you know, most of my events are themed. I mean, we'll do this Thanks for Giving event because people like doing something for a cause, even if it's learning.
Yes.
And so we have all these different themed ways that they can do these events and bring in the referral practices in their teams, and it's fun, and the learning is fun. And for me, to have that experience is when you learn. You know, we know that the number one way, the number one teacher is experience, right? I mean, the number one teacher is experience. The number two the number two learning opportunity is a story from somebody who had the experience.
Sure.
And so for me, one of the things that I really work with team members on is learning how to tell a story. You know, you don't have to tell a patient's name, you don't have to do that, but you've got to be able to say, you know, Miss Jones, we had a patient just like you. Can I share with you what happened with her after she figured out that she could sing in the choir again, or after she figured out that she could eat at the buffet again? So, I mean, I think for me, just understanding that the audience has changed. It's got 4 generations, and we have to learn to, but please everybody, have everybody understand it. But at the end of the day, it's about people. So if I can give you something you didn't expect to get when you came, which is not about how to go back and be a better person on the team, but how to go back and be a better mother, you know, or have more respect as a mother, how to be a better communicator as a husband or a son or a daughter or whatever it is. I mean, I think then everybody wins, because you know, we're people, and people really appreciate being respected and spoken to in a respectful way. And this is about communicating and getting the results, you know, the VFP they call it, the valuable final product that you're looking for, and the results. But it's about doing it with a system, because we know that people don't fail, systems do. If you plug good people into a system, you know, you got you've got a winning team. But most people don't think you need systems for soft skills, and I'm here to say you're wrong. I'm here to say that you're wrong. I'll preach about it, but I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I mean, and this has been great. It's been such a pleasure to get to know you and learn a lot from you and what you've done in this industry, and would love to have you share with everybody how can they learn more about you and what you're doing, website and Spouse Tales and all that stuff. Share that with everybody.
You can go to www.joanmajors.com. It's got one N. If you are interested in learning about me speaking for your event or speaking to your study club or your referral base, you can also go to www.spousetales.com if you'd like to learn more about our podcast and where you can find them on all the channels that are there. And then we have the Soft Skills Institute as well.com, but everything you can find through the JoAn Majors because it will lead you where you need to go.
Awesome. Well, JoAn, thank you so much.
You're
it's
welcome.
Always a pleasure speaking with you, and good luck as you continue to do great things.
Listen, I'm excited about what you're doing. I mean, I'm kind of that era that I know a little bit about the technology, but I'm not where I need to be.
Right.
And I'm so excited because we grew up when everybody wanted to go to the seminar.
Right.
John, we told our team we were taking them somewhere, and they were like, "Can we pack? Are we staying overnight?" And now we say, we're going to do this course, and we're going to go here, and they're like, "Do we have to spend the night? Or are we coming back the same day?"
Right.
So with what you're doing and what you're going to be doing over the next 90 days, I'm saying stay tuned, because for me as a professional speaker, it's going to change. It's a game changer for me. It's a game changer for me, because now those people that really want to participate and they want to learn, but they really don't want to be away, you've just mastered the way that it's going to work, and I'm really excited. So I'm excited about that.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Safe travels home as you travel back.
You too. See you on the road.
Thanks, JoAn.
Thank you.